Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with the Dean. I'm Turney Stevens, Dean of the College of Business at Lipscomb University, and I'm honored today to welcome Jim Wright, Chief Executive Officer of Tractor Supply Company, to our campus. Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Dean. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, we're honored to have you back. It's always a pleasure to have you on the campus. Tractor Supply is an interesting business. It's a publicly owned company. You have about 1,100 stores in 44 states, and yet you really don't supply tractors. So let's begin at the very beginning. Tell me what Tractor Supply does.
Sure. Well, let's start with the name. The company was founded as a cataloger in Chicago in 1938, and with the express purpose of providing tractor repair parts to the family farmer. Very soon after the founding as a cataloger, we opened our first store in Minot, North Dakota in 1938, and grew fairly quickly through the late 30s, through the war years, and prospered in the 1950s. We're actually a public company traded on a New York Stock Exchange in the 50s and the early 60s. The strategy in those days was that we would locate our stores near the railhead or stockyard. The family farmer, and this was a 40-acre, 80-acre farmer, would bring the livestock he'd raised or the crops that he had produced to the stockyard or railhead, monetize them, drive next door to the Tractor Supply store, and buy the engine gasket set or cylinder head or piston sleeves that he needed to go back and rebuild his old Ford tractor for the next planting season. So it was a cyclical process of inputs, which we sold, and the mechanics that we sold allowed him to go back and recycle the same process. Then in the 1960s, the family farmers began to consolidate, and they became corporate farms, thousands of acres, rented equipment, air-conditioned tractors that the farmer certainly never repaired himself. The rail yards and the stockyards also consolidated. So as a result, in the late 60s and through the 70s, we were left with a chain of around 100 stores roughly that were poorly located to serve anyone but the production farmer, who was declining massively. So the company was sold, actually was purchased from the stock exchange by a conglomerate. Subsequently, that conglomerate was purchased by another one, Fuqua Industries out of Atlanta. And and then subsequently to that, moved here to Nashville from Chicago in 1979. At that time, 1980 or so, we were doing $100 million and losing $10 million. An executive from Fuqua, a fellow by the name of Tom Hennessy, was sent up here to pretty much liquidate the company. But he saw something, he saw an opportunity, and his vision was that while we certainly could no longer prosper serving the small production farmer because they were declining, or had declined, but he felt there was an opportunity to serve the recreational farmer, the horse owner, the truck gardener, as an example. And Tom and his management team, which included my predecessor, Joe Scarlett, began to reposition the company and to grow the company with the idea of selling the company, which happened, they had the company on a better path by 1982. And of course, in 1982, Jimmy Carter years, interest rates were in the high teens, and there were no buyers for the company. Fuqua so desperately wanted to sell the company that they actually underwrote the debt for 5 executives, Tom and Joe and 3 others, to buy the company with fundamentally a signature, which they did. And they grew the company conservatively, paid down the debt ahead of schedule, began to open some stores conservatively, and refined the target of the recreational or small plot farmer. And the company did quite well, and actually went public in 1994 at what was then a split adjusted $2.50 a share. For a number of reasons, the company struggled for the next several years, and had a fairly tough year in 2000. So stock was at that time an all-time low. The name, though, you mentioned the name, is interesting. And one of the first questions I was asked when I came here, would you consider changing the name? Because the name clearly doesn't describe what we do today. We researched the name, and tractor means wholesome, hardworking, American, durable, dependable. We said, well, that's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
And most consumers believe that, or relate the word supply to store. So when you begin thinking about it, yes, it says tractor, but the nuanced name is rugged, deferrable, dependable, and so forth. So we decided to leave the name. We're glad we did. And what's interesting, we're asked that question so often, but when you think of many retail companies, CVS drugstores, clearly a drugstore, Walgreens, not sure until you experience it. What's a Sears? Everyone knows. What's a Target? Everyone knows. But those names are no more accurately describe what's in the store than Tractor Supply describes our name.
That's fascinating. Now that's probably a good segue into an area that I'm very interested in. You just announced third quarter earnings, and you had same-store sales up, I believe, more than 11%, which is very close to phenomenal in this economy that we're dealing with today. So tell me, how have you done that?
Well, I have not done that. I'm blessed to be working for about 16,000 people, team members, each of whom is closer to the customer than I am. But what the team has done, we have managed the business according to a set of mission and values that guide us. They guide who we hire and who we invite off the team. I'm the custodian of those. Those words were put on the page in the early 80s. My job is to protect, promote, preserve those mission and values are cornerstones of our culture. So that is part of what prepared us for the success. In addition to that, we have a philosophy of doing business that puts our, first of all, bases us on a very low cost and efficient philosophy. We talk about making nickels work like dimes. And then overarching that, so if that's the foundation, is low cost and efficiency, and we are, for example, in our 5th year of applying lean methods to our company. Then overarching is a culture of the values, shared values, which I mentioned, ethics, which then can take root and grow, trust, which is a natural result of having shared values and ethical behavior. People become trusting, you become a trustworthy company. People become to trust each other. And in that environment, our buyers, our marketers, those people who run our stores, who get our customers, are prepared to take a risk. And without taking risks, companies never get traction. And without trust in the organization, they're not about to take a risk. Then we talk about working collaboratively. We talk about working hard. If you sign up, you're going to work hard at Tractor Supply. We tell people that right up front. And we hope everyone works with a passion. Realistically, probably not every day. We all have bad days. Hopefully every month, most definitely every quarter. All of that then goes to focus on developing team member loyalty. We recognize a lot of companies talk about the customer first. Well, realistically, you can't do that because I don't touch a customer. There's 16,000 team members who do. So first, we want to focus on the team member loyalty. We want to hire very hard, invite only the best people possible onto the team. Once they're on the team, we want to teach them something, let them have a success, catch them having a success, recognize them, and they say, gee, this is pretty good, and they stay around a while, and they learn more and more about our business. They, in turn, then, can transform our customers from shoppers to loyal customers. We measure customer loyalty. And we know that loyal customers are someone who gives us a 5 out of a possible 5 on a score, which 78% of our customers do today. A 5 is twice as likely to come back as a 4, let alone a 1. A 1 dislikes us very much. We have very few of those. A 5 is twice as likely to refer us positively. So we have a customer loyalty engine. And then we have a vendor loyalty engine. We want to do business with vendors for the long term. Now we negotiate firm and fair and above board, but we recognize that we only get to the lowest landed cost over time. So we have some vendors we've been doing business with for 40 years, 50 years, and they've obviously gotten much bigger over that time. And the fourth and final flywheel in our retail engine is loyal shareholders. And a decade ago, in talking with the board, we decided which shareholder we would serve. Now, public company, we don't control who buys our stock, but shareholders have very different philosophies. There's those who are fundamentally electronic day traders. They look at us as a name. They don't really know what we do. They just look at our momentum. Then there's hedge funds that have their trading patterns. And then there's the long-term patient money. And we decided that if we were going to build a significant enterprise over time for our stakeholders and our shareholders, we would seek to serve a long-term patient shareholder. By doing so, we are allowed to make decisions for the long term, for the decade, against the opportunity as opposed to being forced to make decisions to make the quarter. My personal observation over the years of business is that many companies have been sub-optimized in the pursuit of the quarter, and as a result have lost the opportunity. That all allows us to drive our sales. And as a result of driving sales ethically with shared values, low cost and efficiency, as a result of that, we make a profit. And we've made a very consistent profit and a consistently larger profit. So your question a while back was, what about the third quarter? Well, the reason we had a very, very strong third quarter, second quarter, first quarter, a good year last year, is the fact that the team that I'm blessed to serve has been in the business a while, and they are learning more about the business. We have a philosophy of failing often, early, and cheaply. So they have made and will continue to make low-cost mistakes, but learn from them and improve the business. So when I look at our business today, we have absolutely the best team of retailers, from the executive level to the store manager, hourly team member, that I've ever worked with in my 43-year career. Our customers are giving us the highest marks I've ever seen customers give a retail company. We have great relationships with our vendors. They are building high-quality product for us, helping us take costs out of the supply chain. We do today have about 70% of our shareholders are long-term patient money. So we ended up with shareholders that would appreciate our approach towards business. And as a result of all those things working, we have a great deal of momentum in our business right now.
And Jim, I know from reading your biography that earlier in your career you worked for Western Auto. And of course here at Lipscomb we have a certain fondness for Western Auto because It was founded by George Pepperdine, who also founded one of our sister schools, Pepperdine University in Los Angeles. You also worked for Kmart. So here are two businesses, Western Auto and Kmart, that perhaps haven't survived the long term in the retail sector, as well as Tractor Supply appears to be surviving. What did you learn from your earlier experience at Western Auto and at Kmart?
I learned a great deal, and I think life lessons come from two types of mentors: those that are deliberate and show you what to do, and those that are indeliberate and show you what not to do. And I've had vastly more of the latter than the former. I look at Kmart Corp., a once terrific company, first largest discount stores. I got to their international headquarters in 1982 as a very young executive. And at that time, they were 5 times Walmart size. So 30 years ago, they were 5 times the size of Walmart. And by 1985, I was becoming concerned that Kmart would ultimately not win the discount store wars, and I left in 1988. And the fundamental difference was Sam Walton, who had his hands on the throttle of Walmart in those days, valued the team member. He valued the customer. He felt that if he gave the customer an ever-increasingly good deal, they would appreciate it, come back, and his business would grow, and he would be rewarded for it. Kmart, and Sam also was looking at the decade, looking at the long term. Kmart always looked at the quarter, and they changed strategy quarter by quarter, sometimes mid-quarter, to say, well, this is a quarter of sales, and this is a quarter of cost control, this is a quarter of reducing inventory, this is a quarter to be driven by advertising. So as a result, the store management, from store management up, they never knew the playbook, because the playbook was constantly changing, but it was always changing only in response to, we must make this quarter. So while they worried about quarter by quarter, Sam Walton grew the business. Today they're north of $400 billion, and Kmart, I don't know, maybe still be at $15 billion. I'm not sure, but it certainly isn't much. Western Auto was an interesting case. Founded not unlike Tractor Supply in 1909 by George Pepperdine, cataloging, selling auto parts, not tractor parts. Began to open stores. in response in the 30s to what was rumored to be becoming a chain store tax, he invented a dealer model, which is kind of an early franchise model. And in the 1950s, there was actually 4,000 of those little 30-foot wide, 100-foot deep stores around America. That company, too, was owned by conglomerates. And it had been purchased, a management team before I arrived, purchased the company from Beneficial Finance in an LBO, then took it public. And it was only public for, I believe, less than a year when Sears bought them from the public market and put them into a group they have formed called Sears Specialty Merchandising. Sears, not unlike Kmart, was a once-great company. They allowed us, as a management team at Western Auto, to develop our strategy to run the business. And that worked very well from 1988 until 1995, when they decided to get involved in our strategy. And several of us disagreed very firmly with the direction they wanted to take us. And our chairman and CEO was terminated over that debate. They brought a fellow from Sears, for whom I worked 2 hours, and said, "Which way are we going?" And he said, "This way." And I said, "You don't want me here."
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Ultimately, the company was sold to Advance Auto Parts. I feel it was sold at a discount to what it had been worth a couple of years prior. But today Advance Auto is a fine company. So the name Western Auto has passed into the history books. But many of the same 600 stores are still there, and some of the team members are still running those stores.
Now, you're in a sector that many people think is doomed because of online and purchases over the web. I assume that you're somewhat insulated from that due to the strategy, the type of customer you have. But you must have an online strategy, I would assume. So how have you managed to do in the retail sector what so many others have failed to do, which is to keep a physical presence viable?
I think with regard to the impact of the internet and e-commerce, certainly been devastating to the book business. It has devastated record stores. Classified advertising is a thing of the past in newspapers. Mm-hmm. So to assess the potential damage, you have to look at the product that is being sold, how freight efficient that product is, and then the mix of the product within the market basket. We have we have 16,000 stock keeping units in the average store, a very eclectic mix of merchandise. However, we feel there will be an impact on our business over time. It'll not be an immediate, and it'll probably not be nearly as significant as it has been to some retail industries. So as a result, we have an online site today. It's okay. We're not pleased with it, and we are actually re-platforming our, we call it multi-channel, because unlike e-commerce is really about selling product online and shipping it to the customer's home or work. That's a very narrow piece of the overall opportunity afforded by the internet. We are looking at a multi-channel strategy. The multi-channel strategy is based upon our desire to serve and sell our customers with product and information where they want, when they want, and how they want. So the platform we're building for e-commerce will be the same platform that powers special orders in our stores. So our stores will become as big as the internet, and the internet will be bigger than the stores. So, for example, if a customer wants to buy online, ship to home, fine. Buy online, ship to store. Research online, shop in store. Shop in store, special order online from the store. Our vision is that we'll have the capacity seamlessly to do all of those very, very well, and we're 24 months from having that be a reality.
As I was reading about your experience over the last couple of years, particularly at the point in time at which the recession was just beginning to show its fangs, you were very early to recognize that. Tell me how did you predict that ahead of the rest of the retail industry in America, and what did you do to combat it?
Very good question. We were surprised, like everyone, at our December. We have a meeting with the audit committee to set forth the budget for the next year in mid-December. So in mid-December of 2007, we told the audit committee, we think that 2008 will be okay. It'll be like the back half of '07, okay, not great. Here's our plan. Well, 3 or 4 weeks into the year, so only 6 or 7 weeks later, we saw our customers' behavior change very dramatically. Now, being a retailer, we get a lot of data into our customers' purchasing patterns every day, accumulated by the week and the month. And what we saw happening was that our consumers began to defer the deferrable. Things that could be repaired were being repaired. For the first time in 15 years, they were putting less on their credit cards. Cash, check, and debit increased as a tender type. We saw them moving away from big ticket purchases. And my assessment was they're frightened. And either we are in a recession or our consumers are pulling back significantly. We need to adjust. So we met with the top 5 execs, and I said, I'm the old guy in the room. I've been through recessions. This looks like one to me. So if you agree with me, let's declare a recession. And they did. Rolled out to the next 15 or 20, to the next 80, at which point in time I said, you know, if you had a retail P&L with your name on it in your hand in 1971, raise your hand, and my hand was the only one that went up. So I said, well, I have the scar tissue, so listen to me on this one. We're going to call a recession. If I'm wrong, we're going to make a lot of money. If I'm right, we're going to be okay. We built our plans, and the first part of the plan was a customer-facing plan. We said our customers are hurting. They're frightened. They're going to become even more conservative. We want to be caught by them, giving them a great value every day on consumable, usable, and edible items, those items that they need most frequently. We want to be seen by them as being there for them in their times of need. To drive that point home, we got in the case water business. We had never been in the water business, yet our customers buy cases of water quite frequently. But it just wasn't in our product mix. We discovered that we could actually land a case of water in our stores. We bought a pallet full for $3 a case. Well, the prevailing retail price of water was $3.99 or $4.49. We sold it at $3. We traded dollars on it, didn't lose anything to make anything, but sent a huge signal to our customers that, gee, Tractor Supply is the best price on water. They're giving me a great deal. So we began to price food, feed, anything that was consumable, horse bedding, at the lowest possible price. And our customers saw that, and they gave us credit for that, and our traffic went up. Matter of fact, our traffic has increased now for the last 14 consecutive quarters. So all through the recession, we actually had customers coming to us in greater numbers or coming to us more frequently than they had in the past. We also had a Project Trim in the store support center. We said we're all going to help save money, and to get people, you win as a leader when people start using their hands and their head and their heart. So we asked them to go back to their offices or their cubicles, and if they had more than 2 Post-it notes, keep 2, turn the rest in. If they had more than 2 pens, keep 2, turn the rest in. Well, this wasn't trying to diminish the office supply business, but we didn't spend much that year. And what was interesting is our team members physically got involved with Project Trim and saving money. And we did many more things to reduce our costs. Probably the boldest stroke we had was we were spending about $15 million a year on television advertising. And I was convinced, as was my marketer, my president, that was the benefit was unquantifiable, and maybe there wasn't a benefit. So we took the bold move of just canceling all of the television advertising to reinvest those dollars in keeping our team members employed, to making sure that we matched the 401k program, to making sure that we gave great customer service to our customers. Well, guess what? It worked. So we stopped advertising on TV. Our sales went up. And we had $15 million. Some we took to the shareholders, to the bottom line, and some we were able to reinvest in direct marketing, and then just making sure the team was well taken care of during that time.
You've said several times in this conversation, in various ways, the consumers responded. The consumers came to us. The consumers understood, and and favored us with their business. So your philosophy is that consumers vote with their feet.
Oh,
obviously.
very much. Consumers are brilliant. They cannot be fooled by the glitzy ad, by the new promotion, by a loyalty program. Consumers, for the most part, really, particularly in small town America, we do business with smart, hardworking, conservative, home-owning consumers. And they're frugal, they're efficient, they work hard for their money, they want their money to work hard for them. So they're astute. And by understanding the consumer that way and not trying to be glitzy or flashy or complicated, yeah, we have a great rapport and a high level of trust with our consumer. As an example, we run newspaper circular ads 16 times a year for 5 days. So 80 days a year we are off price. There's some other direct mail things we do, but principally we have everyday price all year except for 80 days. And our customers give us high marks for fair pricing. Where a lot of retailers are out trying to find out how low they can go. And the adage I always use is that Tractor Supply, we want to own our customers. We don't want to rent them with excess advertising and low prices. We want to own them with great service and fair pricing.
Jim, you're here today to talk to our servant leadership class, which I think is an interesting term. Most people don't put the words servant and leader together. So tell me about your philosophy. You referred to that earlier in our conversation.
Sure.
I think you used the word servant, and you've said several times in the conversation, I work for them.
Right.
So tell me about your philosophy of being a servant leader.
Well, in the classic pyramid in corporate America is a hierarchical pyramid where at the very top sits a CEO who dispenses wisdom and advice to those lower in the pyramid. We have that pyramid, we turn upside down, so I'm at the bottom of that pyramid. At the very top of that pyramid are the 13,500 hourly team members who serve our millions of customers. Directly beneath them are our store managers who influence and support those frontline team members, and then district managers, regional managers down to the buying staff, and I sit at the bottom. So rather than being privileged by sitting at the top, I'm burdened at the bottom by responsibility for each one of those customer transactions. I can't do them, but hopefully I can hire and teach and influence that moment of truth when the customer trades their hard-earned dollars for our product. So no one, you must serve to achieve that goal, to have absolute alignment from the customer back to the shareholder. I believe that pyramid must be inverted, and we must all play a role in servant or support leadership. Beyond that, if you hire the right team, they want to be supported. They don't want to be bossed. They want to understand the goal. They want to understand how the points are scored. They want to understand the mission and the values of the company. And then they want to be free and empowered to do their jobs.
I read a study over the weekend that had been done by a couple of professors at Harvard. It was called, What Do CEOs Do? Interesting title, an interesting concept. What does a CEO do with his time? So taking the concept of servant leadership and your inverted pyramid, what do you do with your time to actually implement what could be just a retreat PowerPoint message?
Well, what's interesting, retreats for the most part don't work. Motivational meetings for the most part are good for a day or two. It has to be in the DNA of the company. So if I believe that I'm a servant leader and I believe that's the right path, then those directly above me need to believe that. And those directly above them need to believe that. So one of my roles first is to make sure that if I'm the hiring authority, I hire someone who believes in serving, and that they in turn hire people, invite people onto our team who are interested in serving. And then part of my job is to listen and reward great service and great servant leadership, and then to ferret out those who are not and to coach and counsel them to get better. So a lot of my time is custodian of our culture, teaching, making sure it goes from something that is intellectually understood to something that is in the DNA of the team and of the enterprise. So a lot of my time is frankly spent the grand vision and then listening, asking questions.
And you're not as concerned about the headlines as you are about the substance of what transpires. Many CEOs are concerned about the headlines. They're as we talked earlier, they're focused on the quarterly results. They're focused on the glitz and the glamour. Your philosophy is to be focused on the substance.
Hubris kills a lot of companies and a lot of careers. And it's very easy, particularly when you're in a corner office, it's very easy to begin to believe that everyone's laughing at your jokes because they're truly funny, and everyone likes your ideas because they're truly bright. But in reality, it's simply the corner office. They salute the captain's bars, not necessarily the captain. So I think it's important for leaders at all levels to stay grounded, to stay humble, to remember what got them success in the past, because those behaviors and traits are likely to ensure success going forward.
Thank you for your heart, and thank you for your leadership, and most of all, thank you for being at Lipscomb today.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
It was absolutely a pleasure to have you. My guest today has been Jim Wright, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Tractor Supply Company based here in Nashville, Tennessee. We're honored to have had Jim, and we're honored to have had you with us today, too. Please join us again soon.